Hey there, welcome to another Tesla Motors Club podcast. My name is Lewis.
I'm Doug.
And I'm Mike.
Today's episode will cover Tesla laying off their entire supercharging team. Maybe, sort of, and then bringing some back. I don't know. We'll see. Supercharger vandalism is on the rise, possibly connected. Some crazy new low interest rate financing, and more. Episode 64 starts now. Oh man, we're back. Hello, gentlemen.
Hey.
Here we are. Here we're doing it again. Alrighty. It is a wonderful Sunday, and it's too warm outside. I don't know about where you guys are, but it's getting hot in Austin.
It's perfect in the Bay Area
as always.
Yep. It is 70 degrees and sunny here in Southern California.
It's in the 90s here. I was miserable going outside. It's fine.
You can keep it.
Yeah. No good. Alrighty, so supercharging team. There's been a lot going on with the supercharging. They laid them off, and then maybe they hired some back, and there's all this drama with an executive. And Doug, why don't you break this down for us? Because I thought it was pretty crazy reading about. And it's been very juicy the last week or so.
Can you guys remind me the name of the head of that team?
I think it was
female executive.
Something like Rebecca something.
I thought it was Rebecca.
Something like that.
Yeah, the last name would be good, but
I'm looking.
We're
looking.
Well, yeah. So my sense was okay. So there have been several reports. Actually, Electric.
Rebecca Tanucci.
Electric had a relatively early report about this, and it got later reported as new news from more mainstream outlets, and it's the kind of thing that Elon would call fake news, I guess. But it's and actually, if you look at it, the reports it's a little bit sketchy because it's like unnamed sources inside or former employees still unnamed, and sometimes it's like third person. Well, I heard from this person, I heard that. But the thing is, there are enough of them that it seems to corroborate that basically, this Ms. Tanucci had already done her 10 or whatever percent layoff of staff that Elon had demanded, the week or two prior, and he wanted more, and she pushed back, as you would. And that you're running this team, and well, these are the people we need to have. And dude, Tesla Supercharging is like, that was a rock star, right?
That's
doing
the
so much better
right there.
It's a competitive advantage for sure.
Yeah. Well, and then recently opening up, you would think that Supercharging would be really, putting, I don't want to say putting the gas on, but really, accelerating what they're doing to be ready for different vehicles coming up, having more version 4 superchargers, expanding existing supercharger locations because of, other EVs coming to use that space. And you want to, you can sort of have a conquest thing, right? Where you have other EVs using the Tesla superchargers, seeing Teslas and maybe being a little more intrigued with Tesla. So it made sense to be putting more resources into supercharging, especially at this time, right now, as people are transitioning to the Tesla connector, and some people, doing it now with adapters.
Yep.
So it's a little bit surprising, the timing. But yeah, so she pushed back for seems like logical reasons to me, and Elon's response was to fire the entire team. You would think that if she's not doing what he wants, then she would be the one fired, but he fired everybody.
Scorched earth.
Which, is an Elon kind of thing to do. Now the Elon fanboys that, think he's doing some 4-dimensional chess or something that, you've never run a multi-billion-dollar company. What do you know? Yeah, that's true. I don't know anything. But
See, the engineers built and designed the superchargers. Once they've done that, they don't need engineers anymore. They already built it, so they just install them places, right? Like that. I saw a lot of those threads, and I was like, okay.
Like they're a bunch of Legos.
I mean, what was left was a lot of people that were like, oh, but we're in the middle of a project.
Who do we talk to? Where do we get
all
paid?
my emails are bouncing now. You know, what are we doing? Because it's not just Tesla, right? It's the people, the location, the businesses around it, the you know, the people that actually own the space. There's local utility stuff. It's a pretty complex tapestry of different organizations involved. It's not like Tesla can just roll up and do it anywhere. And there are negotiations that have to happen at many different levels for these things. And that's what Tesla really had. They had a team to do this, and it's not just being an engineer or some book knowledge. There's a lot of institutional knowledge that you know was basically just scorched, right? So yeah, I'm sure those people will be fine. You know, other people will try to pick them up, I guess. But
no, they are. I mean, it was over the weekend. People were saying that they had already picked up new jobs, that they had offers in their inbox. As soon as the scorched earth was publicized, people had offers. I mean, it was crazy. So even if Elon wanted to hire some of them back, that was his grand plan in the fourth dimension. He may have missed the boat on that you can't rehire somebody that doesn't want to be there anymore.
Right.
And there are a couple other dimensions here. I mean, layoffs in general, right? If you're going to look at them, typically the way to do it, if you need to do it, you do more than you need and you hire back, right? You don't want layoffs to be a prolonged, painful thing of people wondering, you know, for a month on end. You want to rip off the Band-Aid. So that's the way, that's typically the smart business way to do it. It's not necessarily the most compassionate way, but in some ways it might be more compassionate, right? Is that you rip off the Band-Aid and then you see where your deficiencies are and you hire back. It's not necessarily the most efficient way to do it, but I tend to think that that's probably the way you go about it. But specifically supercharging, it just didn't seem to make a whole lot of sense here. And then Elon may have other sort of motives at this point. You know, like he already had done a relatively large layoff, and you know, maybe Lewis, if you can give us some insight
on which part, on just the layoffs in general. Like they've
on
been
life.
doing on life, life, the search meeting and everything. 42.
Well, you had some opinions. Earlier,
I mean,
that I thought
I feel like, layoffs are not necessarily a bad thing, right? Like it makes a lot of sense. At times, companies tend to build up this cruft of, they get bigger and bigger and bigger, and they don't really prune down. Most companies don't. And so layoffs are kind of like a way to keep the organization somewhat healthy. They definitely are not good when you do a layoff every other week. Or when you know what I mean? Like this team specifically, they laid off, whatever it was, 10, 15% of folks. And then they came back and ended up all getting laid off. And, if you're doing layoffs every, Tesla's done a few, I think, this year. Like if you're doing layoffs like every month or every few months, it's sends a lot of bad signals and it really hurts morale. So yeah, like, I don't know. For example, I will protect the names of the innocent, but I was hanging out with some Tesla engineers this week. We didn't talk about anything to get them fired. Don't worry. But the overall, vibe that they conveyed to me was that, the morale was super low. And to be clear, we were not talking on behalf of the podcast. They didn't know necessarily that I was doing Tesla stuff. I'm just an engineer. I was meeting with other engineers, but they basically were asking me about career advice and what they should do and looking at other roles, because they're kind of like, I may not have a job tomorrow. Like they feel crazy, just like things changing and the ground coming out from under them, seeing these types of moves. So it's not great, the way in which Tesla has necessarily been going about this kind of stuff. Certainly lately, I should say. And you add that with the timing of like the vote, and we'll get into this on the the pay package and all the other kind of stuff. And it makes it really question what are the motivations here and what are the reasons behind why this stuff's happening. But
yeah, I mean, I feel like the morale thing is a big deal. A lot of what Tesla does, at least it seems, is for the purpose of recruiting, right? All this Optimus stuff, the AI days, they say, okay, yeah, this is about recruiting. Given what's happened recently, I mean, I guess I still think probably Tesla is the place you want on your resume, I guess. But is everybody just going to look at it as a stepping stone, or here's a place to build a career? And, if people are looking how, it's not like Elon's not going to treat his employees well, would you really want to, would you really want to come to Tesla?
You need that stepping stone, and you need the name, but you still have to support your family, and you still have to pay your bills. And
yeah, I mean, I guess the other thing is given the current trajectory of the stock, a big thing is like, oh, if you think, that the stock options are going to have a lot of value, then that's another reason to sign on beyond salary. And I think the salary is below market at Tesla.
Yes.
But, there's a promise of
10 years ago, that was okay because of how well the stock did.
Not today.
Yeah, maybe not today. And I've talked with people who've gone through the Tesla recruiting process. That might be slightly dated because maybe this was like 5 or so years ago, but it was like, oh, you really need to believe in the mission, and just checking how much of a true believer you are in EVs or in what Elon's goals are or whatever. Which to me, okay, maybe just your skills and you're able to do stuff, but really believing in the mission to me sounded like an excuse to be paid less, and to put in, more hours than, you would normally would at a job.
Apple was similar, to point out, right?
Yeah.
Apple had a similar culture certainly years ago. I don't know how it is today, but
even that didn't save Tesla people. I mean, there was a Tesla engineer that lived in his car and showered at the gym, and they still whacked him. So, I mean, he was obviously mixing and drinking the Kool-Aid.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I feel like the majority of folks at those companies, definitely you're drinking the Kool-Aid and it's part of the culture, right? Google was like that for years. Meta was like you kind of have to be that way when you're in those types of environments. I've worked in startups now on my 4th startup, and it's part of the culture. It's just one of those things where I feel like most rational people, you kind of feel that way for the first 10 employees, maybe the first 20 employees. When you're getting to like 5-digit to 6-digit employees, like, come on, right? Like at that point, harder. It's kind of, it's harder to do. And then also it's like, you're a cog in the machine, man. When you've got 100,000 people working on this thing, like how much impact do you personally have? Sure, there are individuals at Tesla that have amazing impact. Elon has phenomenal impact.
Yeah,
but like engineer number 3 that like designs a screw for a thing, right? Like, you know what I mean? It's hard to live and breathe the company at that point.
Well, then when you're a part of a team that's extremely successful and doing really good things and being recognized, and outside the company so much, and then just getting whacked for no fault of your own.
Talk about whiplash.
Yeah, that's unfortunate.
That's gotta hurt.
And it reminded me, you were talking about, Doug, how they work with other external companies, right, and external organizations, because they have to install these things. There's all these contracts and deals. It honestly reminded me of my whole solar Powerwall debacle with Tesla. I bought Tesla Solar and Powerwall for my house, and they said, well, we can't do that all at once. We got to split the order because the batteries are backed up. I said, fine. In the middle of this, I don't know if he quit or he got fired, but the person that was in charge of my order wasn't there. The email started bouncing back. Next thing I know, I don't have Powerwall. I only have solar panels. They never put in the other order. They wouldn't let me sell or to buy them. There was just all this drama around it. And now they will happily sell them to me, but I'm over it. I'm already like, you know what? Why would I buy Tesla Powerwall if there's good alternatives out there, right? Like, it's possible they may have screwed up deals where there would have been superchargers that now there won't be a Tesla supercharger there. There might be a different company, or they might not do it at all. It might impact, EV adoption. So it's never good when you have those types of, things that come up that are unexpected when you're in the middle of working on a project or a deal. And the lack of transition, the lack of handoff is just unprofessional. So I don't know. Hopefully this doesn't come to bite them long term. I mean, again, Tesla Supercharging is one of the, competitive factors in Tesla being so successful. That network, Elon was the visionary behind, we really need this network years ago, and you have it, but you need to expand it to really grow the market how you want. And now you've got all these other automakers all coming on board to like use your supercharging network. You're supposed to be growing this network, right? They had concrete goals of we're going to double and triple and we're going to do all this stuff.
Plus all the federal tax dollars he was going to get.
And the tax dollars you're going to get. And it's like, man, I hope you didn't jeopardize all this with these types of shenanigans.
I mean, I have to say, supercharging in particular, if you think of all the sort of different Tesla moves, that one particularly is a stroke of genius. One I didn't see, one that I thought was nuts when they first started doing it. Like,
well, obviously they were brilliant if you didn't even see it. I'm just teasing.
Well, it was just, at the time and
yes.
for years afterwards, every charging, network for the most part was a failing business. And
right.
I was like, well, why do you need to be in this business too? Except that, really, it's the business of selling their cars. Yes. And so that was really well done. I mean, you think of other things like the shift to autonomous driving, that wasn't an original Tesla thought, right. Elon saw the little Waymo cars going on and he,
Demolition Man. We've all seen it.
Well, it's that, like we were talking about with, XAI sort of thing. That's like, me too, what about me sort of thing. After OpenAI gets a lot of press, Tesla moving to autonomy, that was after Google and they had these little cat cars going around. Mm-hmm. If you remember back in the day, and I think either Larry or Sergey had said something about it, and Elon basically, oh, that's the new hotness, I mm-hmm. want a piece of that, and that was a major shift for the mm-hmm. company. And of course now he's for the most part putting all the eggs in that basket. But that wasn't an original idea, right?
Right.
But the superchargers, that really was, as far as I could tell, no other company was thinking to do that. Correct. And to take that on, and that really was a stroke of genius, and that has set Tesla apart.
Well, it's not just a supercharger; it's the execution. Yeah. I mean, you just drive your car up and plug in. No card, no app. Don't have to screw right.
The beauty of the vertical integration.
Just plug it in.
There is, I mean, I give them a lot of credit for that. So anyway, to then go like, I don't know, to destroy it. I mean, of course, the network is still there, but to destroy the team while they're in the middle of, going gangbusters.
They're supposed to be expanding, right? This year, they're supposed to be. Was it doubling? Like there's a lot of pressure on growing. So yeah, it's kind of crazy. And it kind of leads into our next discussion point on it is mm-hmm. vandalism at superchargers is apparently on the rise.
Apparently.
So, I mean, Mike, you can give us a little bit of the details on this, but.
So what's happened lately, and it's kind of made the news, mainstream news, is people are going in and cutting the charging cord from the top of the charger, and the common thought is they're cutting it for the copper. They're trying to steal the copper wiring and get a few bucks for the wire, the wire that's on the inside. Some of the more conspiracy thinking folks are saying, no, it's the people that want to ice our stations, and they've decided they can just cut the cord and not have to deal with their truck parked there. It's a payback, as it were. But regardless of who's right on that, it's certainly increasing. They're seeing more and more incidents like this taking place. Either the cords are getting cut or the stations are getting smashed, run over. It's not helping that Tesla's removed some of the bouncers, or the what do they call them? Bollards to keep people from hitting them, and now people are hitting them. So
yeah, I have to say I was somewhat surprised that it wasn't more of an issue in the past.
Yeah, there's no cameras or anybody looking at them. Yeah.
Well, okay, I mean that's one of the deterrents or possible deterrents, but I mean we've seen vandalized level 2 stations for for years, for as long as they've been there. The European model is that their charging their level 2 charging stations don't even have cables. You supply your own cable. You put that in your car and you plug in with the Meninka's connector on both ends, and that's mainly to prevent cable theft and vandalism. So I was sort of surprised. That might have been part of Tesla, keeping their systems maintained. I feel like since there's been news about it now, though, the rate, at least the reports
more people
that
are thinking
I'm seeing
about
are
it,
increasing it. Yeah. And, when you see the news reports, they're pretty convenient that they mention, and you can remove this and you don't even get electrocuted. Like,
oh, wow. Thanks for that inside information.
Thanks for that info. Yeah. And I mean, I've seen videos of where somebody cut the thing while it's mid charge and sparks fly and the guy steps out of his car like, what happened? And that's because the dude just like stole the cable mid charge. So it's troubling, and it's troubling now, especially if that whole supercharging team is gone.
Right. Who's going to fix it?
Yeah, the other big part of it was the maintenance, right? Uptime of Tesla superchargers was far better than any other charging network. I think in part is a lot of those charging networks were essentially in the business of getting federal subsidies to build the chargers, and instead of
not necessarily run them.
Yeah, instead of maintaining them.
So,
the
government was their customer, not the end user being their customer.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
That's the problem.
So I don't know. I mean, there are things they can do. There should be cameras, and I suppose you could have a more
only they had a team of people thinking about how to solve this problem.
Top men.
They had some top men and women.
Yeah,
top people working on this full time. Yeah. I don't know. To me, it's one of those. Every time I hear, Mike talk about horror stories at other, non-Tesla supercharging stations, it just makes me not even imagine buying a car that can't charge at a Tesla supercharging station, right? Like the Tesla supercharging network is the network. There's nothing close. And then to go, oh, now we're going to have vandalism problems, all these other things. So its quality is going to go down, combined with the people that were working on it are no longer there. That really makes me concerned for how things are going to, be maintained.
Well, I'm on the Rivian Reddit, I'm on the Chevy Bolt Reddit, and a few others, and people are just now getting their adapters. Rivians just started shipping them in quantity, and the Bolt Chevy people are getting their adapters. And they're all going, what the hell?
Yeah.
Are we even going to have a supercharger that works, or are we going to go around like EA or other unkind words?
So, Mike, did you say that they're getting hit more? Because part of the reason to remove those bollards is to make access easier for those other brands of vehicle.
There are folks that track this sort of thing, and they're saying that the reported incidents are on the rise. Now, they didn't give any hard numbers to it. It's just gossip at this point.
Yeah.
But yeah, if you make access easier, then shit's going to happen.
Yeah, well, hopefully they get things under control. Like we said, we already know they rehired some of the folks that were laid off, and I'm sure they'll end up hiring more people in the future.
Would you be that eager to go back after?
No, hell no.
Yeah, my advice to any, at least on the engineering side out there, is I've been in industry, in a number of different industries for about 20 years. My advice is never go back to a company you left, whether you chose to leave or you didn't choose to leave. The few times I've done it, it's never worth it. It's always better
So
to go. Yeah.
why not? What happens?
One of our producers said same advice for a bad relationship breakup. Yes.
Yeah, yes.
True.
Whenever you leave, whenever, in whatever it is, a relationship of work or personal, going back, it's never the same. It's always different, and it's usually different in a weird way. So I don't recommend it.
I mean, personal relationships aside, if they offered you, okay, yeah, take me back, but double my salary or something.
Yeah, but that's not realistic.
I actually had that.
Yeah.
I worked at a company and left voluntarily. That it was due to issues. They doubled my pay to get me to work for them from home. This is, 15 plus years ago. I got to work from home, double the pay, and I lasted maybe 3 months before I just couldn't do it anymore. I just didn't. It was just so weird. I had a couple weeks off between this happening. And then even just going back to the office sometimes and just working with these people, I was like, I can't do this. I don't care. And I just got a different job for double the pay.
Okay.
Right? Like
okay. So if it's a personal relationship, she's going to dig up, past arguments, and it's never going to be fine. But what, in this case, and at a job, what happens? What is it? What makes it weird?
It's a lack of trust.
It just loses its luster. It's kind of like it's no longer shiny, right? You work somewhere for a few years and you leave, and then you go back. It's different, but it's also the same. It's like going to your childhood home. It's like there's weird memories or things that you connect with stuff, but it doesn't look the same anymore. So it's just like a weird, I don't know, it's just a weird perspective. And I wasn't even working with the same people, which is the other crazy thing. I thought it was going to be great. I just didn't like it. I didn't want to do that work anymore. It's just awful.
Well, can you imagine, Doug, going back to okay, so let's say you're in Tesla, you're working in the Supercharger team, you guys are getting awards, you're getting accolades, the whole world loves you, you're working your butt off, trying to spread the wealth. Your reviews come in, you get good reviews, and then Elon has a man-child hissy fit, chucks you out the window for no good reason, and then kind of says, oh yeah, well, maybe we should let you back. I'm sorry.
I mean, it's tough, but I feel like a lot of people, like if you believe in the mission,
but I can do my mission of charging the world somewhere else. I don't.
Maybe.
I mean, I'm charging.
You may not have the same impact though, right?
Yeah.
Like the argument is
maybe I can have a better impact. Maybe I can take EA and raise it out of the gutter. I mean,
that would be Herculean task.
Good luck. I don't even think Elon could raise EA out of the gutter.
That might be
anyway.
harsh.
Yeah. Ooh.
Well, yeah, I don't know. I mean, but maybe if you came back in a better position. I mean, I don't know. I don't know. I don't have any personal experience.
It's a personal
with
choice.
It,
I mean, some
but
people may
it
not
seems
care.
pretty rough, which is why I asked the question, because I honestly don't know.
Yeah.
But it's an interesting position.
I'm like
to be
Lewis. I've done the same thing a couple times, and it hasn't worked out well. The few times I've.
It's
gone
also
back.
never worked out for friends of mine either. I've had friends do it too, where they work somewhere, they leave, they go somewhere else for a year, they go back, and it's never the same.
Yeah,
You
it's
never,
not the same.
because you have all of this historical knowledge and perspective, and it's different, and it's just weird. Anyway, but yeah, so hopefully things work out there. Hopefully they improve, because it is one of our favorite things about Tesla.
You'd almost think that was an asset, though. The things you mentioned,
Which,
like knowing the system, having the historical knowledge, and maybe
It
you
can be an asset.
and especially if you're able to come back at a position of slightly higher status or power, maybe you have a better chance of navigating things.
I don't know, man. I think it's
chopped
I don't know if it's a
everybody else.
psychology thing. I'm not sure what it is, but it just never feels the same.
All right.
So this next topic is pretty interesting. In fact, I've had multiple friends of mine contact me over it specifically, that they've been marketed this and they're actually interested. Tesla started promoting 0.99% financing.
yes.
Which is insane. Like right now, if you haven't been living under a rock and you've been paying attention to interest rates and loans and mortgages and all this stuff for the past 2 years, under 1% or just say 1% is cuckoo bananas right now. In fact, I'm not even sure there's no bank that's going to underwrite this. Like, it's got to be Tesla financing doing it themselves.
Yeah. You're like, you can't buy money at that rate.
Yeah. So, yeah, I don't know. Anyway, I think this is crazy. Doug, you've or not Doug, sorry, Mike, you actually are like trying to leverage this now, right? You're buying in.
So full disclosure, I put my $100 down on the Rivian R2. But as we all know, that's 1.5 to 2 years out from today, assuming it all goes well. But I have been kind of poking around and kind of wishing I could upgrade. I've got a Model 3 and I've got a Pacifica Hybrid. And this showed up in my inbox. And like the day after, I went ahead and bought a Model Y. I ordered a rear wheel drive Model Y on this deal. But then I thought about it for a week and I go, in fact, just today I went ahead and canceled that and I upgraded to an all-wheel drive Model Y with this rate that I can actually pick up locally in the city I live in. So I don't have to wait for them to produce these new long-range rear-wheel drives. But yeah, I went to the Tesla store that's in our Brea Mall. That's a local mall of ours. And the place was just crazy. It was like an Apple store. Everybody and their brother was in this place. There were 3 salesmen and a whole lot of people wanting to talk about Teslas. And you couldn't get a reply from email. You couldn't call in. It was pretty much, yeah, you're on hold. Come down to see us and hang up.
So it's got to be. So it sounds like this is a brilliant tactic to boost sales.
You want to pump sales
and to make the quarterly numbers look good,
if
right?
You want to pump sales and you can afford to carry the 0.99%, then yeah, Elon, it's genius.
So
it's genius.
Can you explain how they can carry that? Are they financing it themselves, or do they have some other financial institution underwriting these loans, or how does it work?
I'm not clear. I've been told that Tesla's carrying the paper on this. I've been also told that if you're upright and breathing, you can probably get it. They seem to be kind of loose on the qualifying. Again, to move the car. You have to make a personal judgment whether you can actually afford it or not.
I mean, I've always thought that Tesla should be in this financing game since most manufacturers make a lot of money.
They
like
do have their
GMAC
own finance
sort of
company. You can read the fine print and they'll tell you who's underwriting their various loans. And was it Tesla Finance, Lewis? We were looking at it.
Yeah. When I financed mine, it went through Wells Fargo, who's underwrote the loan and actually carried it. So, which I didn't mind because they were my mortgage. So it was like, yeah, everything's all the same, but I didn't expect that because all the paperwork just said Tesla up until everything went through. But yeah, they do actually have Tesla financing as one of their loan servicing type organizations. My understanding is they're basically subsidizing the loans to some degree. So I don't know if they're like working with other partners and they're just paying the difference in interest, or they're doing something along those lines, moving money around, some kind of tax, something to like make it happen.
Yeah.
Or if they're like carrying the loans themselves. I would think they don't want to carry the loans because they have a lot, like they like to use their capital on hand in various ways. And that's probably not the way that Tesla wants to leverage their capital. But I don't know. There's probably accountant out there, CFO somewhere that knows way more about this than me of like the financial tricks, but they're doing something to where it's not like they found a bank willing to do this because that's not going to happen. Right? The Fed rates are too high. The banks aren't going to do it. But
there's some very tight restrictions on this because when I was, we had a comment about whether or not they'll, there it is. Elizabeth, will they decrease people's current rate? That was actually asked when I was standing in the store. And the sales rep says, no, we have documentation that came from Tesla. It was very explicit. This is for
they've already made that sale.
This is for now. It started on the 10th, ends on the 30th. It's a very tight window. It's only the Model Y and everything pre-existing. No can do.
Yeah.
No Model 3, no Cybertruck. Sorry. Just the
there's
Model
the
Y.
boost sales numbers for the quarter because it's this month. You have to buy it by the end of this month, I believe.
Yes. You have to order. You don't have to take delivery, but you do have to order.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, the Y, that's a very popular vehicle, right? But, people know that there's a refresh, just over the hill.
I would argue most people don't know.
Yeah.
Most people don't know, but yes.
But then also, they are, in terms of their manufacturing, they're geared up to make a bunch of Ys, and there has been a slowdown. So these are the things that they need to move, right?
Now, I would say this. So this is an observation. When I was in the store, they had a Highland and they had a Model Y, tail to back. You get in the Highland, you look around, you can feel and see how much upgraded the Highland is over the old Model 3. When you shut the door, it's got a very BMW Mercedes thunk to the door now. It just has a very nice feel to it. You go to the Y, and it kind of feels like a high-end Chevy. It just doesn't have the same look, feel, touch, elegance that the Highland has got.
I mean, I'll agree with that. I went to there's a Tesla store at the Stanford Shopping Center in Palo Alto, and they have the Performance 3, and they have the Y. And yeah, I mean, I don't know that there's anything particular about the Performance 3 that over the Highland version, but I mean, from when I test drove it probably about a month ago, yeah, there's a lot more carpeting in places that used to just be plastic.
Yep.
So it's designed to absorb a lot of noise. It has the double pane glass that the Model Y, the current Model Y should have.
They're supposed to have that.
But it's all the other little things. There's that little tab under the door that sort of, seats it just right as it comes in. So yeah, it definitely feels more of a
I will
solid
say
vehicle.
this. One of the reasons, and Lewis, you're going to laugh at me for this. One of the reasons, so the 0.99 kind of pushed me over the edge, but you know what really pushed me over the edge? The Model Y has stocks. Juniper, by all accounts, Juniper won't.
Sure.
And I am not interested in. I am not interested in that. So I view this as kind of like my last chance to get a relatively new Tesla with stocks.
With a great interest rate.
With a great interest rate.
Yeah.
But as I've said before, they should offer them as an option because it's just plain ridiculous.
Who knows? Maybe.
They
I mean, Juniper's been paused from everything I've heard. So,
the sales guy at the Tesla store, he just he couldn't say anything about that. I'm just like, how do I use a turn signal when I'm using in a roundabout? I don't know.
This is America, sir. We don't use turn signals here.
Yeah. Okay, now you sound like the BMW drivers. Now,
so go ahead.
Before we go off, Lewis, just one thing. There's a guy I've been looking at so much information the last couple of days about this whole deal. I don't remember the source, but there is a user out there. I think it was in Reddit, but I think he pulled it from somewhere else. They actually did the calculation of 0.99% interest of what you'd pay over the life of a loan of 72 months. And they referenced it to a current credit union loan of like 6.5 and then a high risk loan of, 10 plus. Mm-hmm. And over the life of the loan, you're talking $8,000, $9,000, $10,000 in savings. Mm-hmm. I mean, this is real money. So if you have any way of pulling this off and you want to why.
What's funny is I feel like this is almost a gimmick to try to not upset the owners. So for example, if you think about it in the grand scheme of things, Tesla has a few knobs they can turn for sales. And what they've done in the last 2 years, they did a lot of price cuts.
Yeah.
And what's funny is, and it pissed all of us off. Like everybody that owns a car is mad about that. But there were other dealerships for years and years over, Toyota would do it. I think I did it with my
financing.
0% financing,
0%.
Right? So I think they maybe have realized like, hey, this is a way to drop the price of the car a few $1,000s to get more sales without people being upset that already own the car because the cost is the same. It's just better interest rates. Yep. So people don't see it the same, even though it is. So I think this might just be Tesla realizing, oh, wait, here's a knob here we haven't turned yet that doesn't piss everybody off.
So brand new car qualifies for the $7,500. The Model Y does. So you get 0.99%. You get the $7,500 discount up front. It's a killer deal. It is absolutely a killer deal. And some states offer incentives on top of that.
Sure.
It varies state to state, obviously. But, I mean, some states are very generous.
Right. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how long they do this for. If it comes, it'll probably come back again. They did multiple rounds of this will be the only time ever we let somebody transfer FSD, and then they did it again.
Right.
Or
So I bought my
supercharging.
Y, but I was kind of wishing, the little voice in my head was kind of wishing they did this for the X. I might have considered an X.
They did it for an X. I'd probably buy one. Yeah, it's interesting, but no, anyway, I think it's smart on Tesla's side. It's definitely should use sales. I'm interested to see where the numbers land. They seem to be really focused on this quarter, and that leads into our next topic, which I think is somewhat potentially connected to the layoffs they did and all the other stuff, is this investor voting Elon pay package thing. There's a shareholder vote coming up.
Yeah, there's some drama.
Yeah, lots of drama there. So, I mean, who wants to talk about it? I don't know. I could talk. You could talk about it.
I could talk about it a little bit.
Okay, we'll hand off to Doug.
So, if any of you guys invest in any companies, you might get an email or a little letter in the mail about a proxy vote for, there's a shareholder vote coming up, and they have these various things that they're voting on and what the board suggests you vote on. And, I've gotten those things before. Most of the time I ignore them. I'm not that significant enough of a shareholder for it to really matter anyway. But I've never seen it where the board is actually putting out ads to try to get you to vote the way they want you to vote. That to me is sort of new, especially Tesla.
I've never seen it either.
Tesla that doesn't do normal ads, yet you see their chair putting out an ad telling them to vote the way Elon wants you to vote. So that's pretty interesting. There are several things worth chatting about on it. The main two are sort of reaffirming Elon's pay package from a few years back. That
like 2018 or something. It was a while ago.
That was recently. There's a lawsuit about it, and the judge, said that basically that the board wasn't acting independently enough when they approved it. So that has been pushed back. And then the other one is that Tesla wants to reincorporate in Texas, which can only be seen as Elon being pissed at Delaware. And if you look at Twitter, it's amazing. I've never seen this before. You have all these people that are it just feels really culty. This is how I'm voting, and they literally show like screenshots of their votes, and this is what I'm doing.
Almost like a political election.
Yeah, that's what it feels like. And then you have some people that are just like, no, I'm not voting for this. And a perfectly rational person could say, why would I vote to reincorporate in Texas? It's such an unknown, whereas Delaware is basically set up to be friendly to corporations. So it really is just, as far as I can, my armchair psychologist, it's just, I'm pissed at Delaware. No one should ever. Yeah, I mean, Elon has made these tweets. No one should ever incorporate their company in Delaware. Come on, that's ridiculous.
Texas is pretty corporate friendly, but yes, you're right. For legal precedent, Delaware is the de facto standard. I would argue, though, that probably most people don't know that or think of it to that degree, right? Like most people probably hear Delaware's where things are incorporated, but they don't realize why it matters. So I don't know. It's an interesting point, though, of clearly it's Elon decided they're moving their incorporation. I highly doubt this came from the CFO's office, right? This is probably, Elon deciding this, but
yeah. And the board trying to show that they're independent, that ain't working then,
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I'm thinking back on it. I'm pretty sure there have been ads in the past for votes at certain companies years and years ago. They've been like very targeted ads, and not, maybe it's just because Tesla's so mainstream that they're like kind of so broad and like into the public eye. But, it's crazy. It's like a political ad campaign, right? Of like, vote this, do this. And I almost feel like the timing is kind of terrible, because it's like, this is based on how the company would be doing and how their performance would be. And in 2018, there was a lot of, or whatever it was, I think it was around 2018, there was a lot of like, holy crap, like the company was about to go under and like things weren't working, and they pulled it through and like became super valuable and everything's amazing. So like in that point of time, yeah, like give the guy the biggest pay package ever. Like we fucking did it. Sorry, we're supposed to be family friendly, but like, I did it. Let's go kind of thing. And now it's like, well, where's the stock price now? Where's the room for growth now? Sales have been slipping. There's more pressure on, the industry wide, all this other kind of stuff. And it's kind of like, should we be giving him the largest pay package ever kind of thing? Like, and all the Twitter stuff. So there's a lot of Tesla shareholders that are not as, on board. We're not as on board with, some of Elon's decisions. So I think the timing, like, again, it made more sense in 2018, whenever it happened. It makes less sense now. But because of the judge and doing all the stuff, it's almost like they have to do it again. So yeah, I'm kind of interested to see where this goes. But the cult of Elon is strong. There's a lot of folks that are very in favor of, giving him this pay package. And if you think about it, he wouldn't need the pay package if it wasn't for the Twitter buy, right? Like his argument of, I lost too much control of the company, I need more control of the company. It's like, yeah, you sold all that stock because you bought another company for $40 billion, right? Like, so you want another 50 billion in Tesla. I mean,
and you could argue that him selling that stock obviously negatively affected the stock price.
And right? It did. Right, exactly. So do I think, like, for example, I think Tesla today would be better off if he never bought Twitter. For so many different factors, it would be better off. And so it's kind of funny that it's like now he wants to get a big payout additionally from Tesla to get more control.
I mean, it's not
that he only needs because he bought Twitter.
And it's not even just the stock he sold; it's the stock that's up as collateral.
Yes.
For that,
he's leveraged it. Yeah.
So that's kind of rough. So you were earlier we were chatting. You were connecting that like this shareholder vote and this quarter to the other things, the layoffs, the 0.99 financing. Could you elaborate on that?
I just feel like, whenever you're worried about shareholders, you're generally focused on the stock price and what are the factors or the things that they're doing that try to help the stock price. Generally speaking, it's funny, layoffs almost sound like you should be like, oh no, things are wrong at the company, it shouldn't be valued as much. But oftentimes investors like layoffs because that means the company's being more lean, more efficient, which means they're being more profitable. So when you talk about things of like, doing layoffs to cut costs, that means their profitability goes up. That means their stock price goes up. When you talk about the interest rates, that's a thing to like, man, as Mike described, right? It's Tesla's probably their sales numbers are going to rebound, right? They were down last quarter. They're probably going to be doing much better this quarter in a big part because of this deal. And if the numbers look really good, that's something they can point to. They go, hey, look, the numbers are fantastic. He clearly deserves this pay package, right? It's a standard executive short-term thinking thing of let me just do this thing that's going to hurt the company long-term, but looks really good right now. So the stock price does, so I get my bonus payout, right? Like executives have been doing that since, Walsh basically set the precedent in the 90s or whatever it was. So, I in my mind, they're all connected. I feel like this is all because of this pay package. Now, would they have done some of these things without the pay package? Sure. But I feel like they're more important to them. And that, like, I don't think we'd get the advertisements and all the other kind of stuff going on. I think that's why they're so hot for doing this is they really need, they really want this to happen, right? The Elon really wants it. And the Elon bubble he has around him on the board, and, with the certain investors, like they really want Elon to be happy. So that's why they're pushing for this. So I know that's my feeling. Maybe it's a conspiracy. I'm being too, conspiracy nut, but
Elon has also positioned it as, it's a little bit of, give me what I want or I might walk. And not even just this package. He's basically said he wants another package after this that ensures that he has at least 1/4 of all shares in terms of voting power, so that, he can guide things the way he wants it. And I guess this ties into that. would Elon really walk if this doesn't get approved?
I don't think so.
Well,
I don't know. What do you think, Mike?
I think he would. I don't think he's rational enough to sit there and decide unemotionally. His emotions rule him. And I think this would probably turn the burner up to high, and he'd probably do it just because it seems like something to do.
But Tesla is where he gets the most attention. Before he was as big on Twitter, like his main thing was, I mean, you could, let's see, I mean, if we had this conversation back in 2015, say, his, SpaceX really should have been his main thing, right?
Yeah.
But
I wish it was.
But it might be after all this.
But in terms of cars, a little more literally down to earth, and that was something that was getting more attention. So in terms of him building his public clout, it was really Tesla, and then of course Tesla is where he's made his real money, right? In terms of, at least on paper,
where most of his
Tesla shares,
money,
right?
But he's made a lot of noise. He wants to
right?
get into AI. He wants to really kind of play in that sandbox. He may view this as a way to kind of stop spreading himself so thin and go focus on something shiny and new.
I mean, AI is AI, right? Like he's going to be doing AI with Twitter. He's going to be doing AI with Tesla. At some point, they'll be doing AI with SpaceX. Like it's just AI is going to be equivalent to just saying software at some point in the future, right? It's just going to be another.
But we're not
thing
there
that
yet,
every company
and I think
does.
he wants to be at the front of it. Yeah,
he does for sure. Like, I agree with that. But I don't think here's the thing. AI is still more of a research project than a product. You're not
sure.
Okay, I'll caveat say
think how
that
smart
OpenAI has done a phenomenal job of productizing AI, right? Because if you look at all the things they had with ChatGPT before that, all that stuff existed. They did not invent a lot of that stuff, but they figured out how to productize it really well.
But there's a point here, Lewis.
Sorry, go ahead.
Elon doesn't want to sell cars. That's not what he wants to do.
He wants to sell the future, you're right.
He wants to sell the future. And he wants to be seen as the smartest kid in the block about selling the future. And moving over to AI or something like that is an easy way to do it.
Yeah, I mean, that's fair. But I don't know. The point still stands. I still don't think he's going to leave Tesla, right? Like, because Tesla's almost kind of his baby at this point, right? Forgetting one, it made him a lot of money, sure. But I agree with Doug. It got him a lot of publicity. It got him a lot of attention. He loves that. And it kind of plays into, like, whenever you have somebody like Elon, and this is true for all of them, anybody that's like an executive with multiple companies, there's not a lot, but like, for example, look, like Steve Jobs is the same way, Gates is the same way. When you start going into a bunch of different companies or you own chunks of it, you start interplaying between them where it's like this one buys stuff from that one, and they start doing all that stuff. Jobs did it a lot, right? With Next, and then Apple buying Next to use the hardware and do all. So it's a common thing that executives will do when they're in these multiple companies. And I don't see like Elon getting away from that, right? Like SpaceX uses Tesla vehicles for things, and they share engineering, and they XAI is technically a company that is developing AI, and they're all using XAI stuff, and they're maybe going to use Tesla's chip design, and so I think the ecosystem is there. I can't see him like cutting out a big part of his ecosystem. Yeah. Maybe if he decides to retire at some point, but I don't think he'll ever retire.
SpaceX is using Model S motors to actuate the grid fence.
Exactly. Exactly. So there's this tight integration between the companies. So I don't think he'll walk. I think he will definitely threaten to, for sure, which he's kind of sort of done already. I think now what I would say is you do want Elon to be happy. So like if he's upset, it may cause things to happen at the company that make all of us unhappy.
Yeah.
Ignoring the stock price. Again, I am not I do not own any Tesla shares.
Yeah, look at the Supercharger network. Yeah.
Exactly. Supercharger network. Just, they have great products. As a customer, I love Tesla's products. I want them to continue to innovate and expand and grow. And what concerns me is, like I said, I spent time with several Tesla engineers this week, and they were talking about morale's really low. They're thinking about looking for other jobs. They're not sure if they're going to be employed. And that's the thing you don't want. You want Tesla to be a bastion of innovation and excitement for young engineers to go work there.
Please come work for us and see the future.
Exactly. And so that's where I get nervous about this kind of stuff. So like, I want him to be happy. Do I think he deserves that payout? Probably not. I don't think anybody deserves that payout. I don't care who you are, but you know what I mean? But like,
well,
whatever.
You know what Elon says? He says, I don't want to live in a world where someone makes the world a better place better than we do.
Right.
There's some ego there.
There was a Silicon Valley episode, right, where they did a spoof on that, where the guy basically said, he's like, I don't want to live in a world where somebody else makes it better. Like, I want to be if I'm not the one making it a better place. Yeah, exactly. Belson or whatever in Silicon Valley. Fantastic show.
It tracks. I mean, that's what Sam Altman said about Elon, right?
Yes.
He wants to save the world as long as he's the one doing it, right? So.
Yep.
Correct. So it is what it is. But anyway, so it'll be interesting to see. We'll give you updates when this happens. The shareholder vote coming up. Let's see. Related to some of the things we talked about today, there's also a fun FSD class action lawsuit. Class action lawsuits are never fun. I'm being facetious, but I find this interesting.
The problem with those things is, you never get anything out of it. Like the lawyers get everything.
Nobody ever makes anything except the lawyers. Yeah.
I mean, I think I was owed I made I don't know, like $2 or something from something, and then you gotta go through all the trouble of getting it back, and it's like, why even bother?
Right. I spent more on the stamp to send me the letter than I'm going to actually make out of this.
I think my battery gate class action suit with Apple was like $1 or $1.50. I mean, something ridiculous.
Yeah.
They just give it to you in Apple Store credit. That's.
I remember sending in an original iPod Nano and getting the latest version of the iPod Nano, and that was kind of nice. But that was kind of the best
cool.
I ever got.
So
nice things.
So related to that, there was some drama recently. Sorry, not to go off on it's too much of a tangent. Google was accepting 6-year-old iPads, and they were giving you $400 for it towards a Pixel tablet or something.
Oh wow!
And they pulled the deal, but they said they're honoring all of the people that submitted. I was blown away. I was like, wow, a really old iPad, you're getting $400 on a new tablet. That's pretty good. But you missed the deal, Mike. They're not doing. They pulled it.
So this is the new Kindle that you can write on. Their e-paper version.
Oh boy.
They had a deal where they gave me $100 for my old Kindle, my old little tiny Kindle.
Oh, nice.
I only paid $110 for it when I bought it.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
I mean, occasionally Google has got some deals, and occasionally Amazon's got some deals. I mean, they all have deep pockets where they can move the needle if they want to.
They have plenty of money. They don't need our money.
And that's what Tesla's doing. Tesla's moving the needle today. With the why.
So the class action lawsuit I find somewhat amusing because we've talked about FSD tons of times on the show, obviously. But what I found most amusing is something that was said earlier before we started today's episode. Is Mike, you were talking about your recent usage of FSD.
Oh yeah,
and you're probably the biggest critic and skeptic of FSD of the three of us.
Absolutely.
And tell the people what you said, because I was blown away.
Okay, so I have a little route that I use my FSD on when I come home, and it's got unprotected left turn. It's got unmarked wide streets in a housing tract. It's got a roundabout. It's got all these interesting little things, and FSD has just been a hot mess trying to get to my house. So a couple days ago, as I was coming up to my unprotected left, I took my iPhone, I set it up, and I recorded this. And I was stunned that it was smooth. It made the turn. It read the signs right. It stayed in the center of the lane. It didn't have the digital meltdown when it was trying to make the roundabout like it always does. And I was very impressed, actually, given some of the other adventures I've had with FSD. Now, I'll admit it worked. Now I want to repeat this to see if it's repeatable or if hell froze over for the day.
So, I mean, it's funny to me because you were giving this anecdote of like, oh my God, FSD worked better than it's ever worked, and I was super impressed.
It's absolutely true.
Then this lawsuit that's going on right now is basically claiming some level of fraud on Tesla's part, saying that they are advertising this capability, or they're selling it as it has this capability or will soon.
Okay, so
and it hasn't.
So let's parse this out a little bit. So one disclaimer: a retired lawyer filed this lawsuit.
I think the disclaimer is none of us are lawyers, so don't take anything we say.
I don't play one on TV.
But yes.
But he was making a point that he bought it on his 2017, maybe it was a 16 Model S. And most of us know by now that the hardware on those, there's no way in hell it's ever going to run FSD in its current state. Nor is there
that is not Tesla's opinion, but sure, that's Mike's opinion. Continue.
Okay. Suit yourself.
They still claim hardware 3 will work. And those cars could have been upgraded to hardware 3. So
could have been and wouldn't. Could have been and wouldn't and had not been upgraded. I think they stopped at 2.5.
Oh, okay. Okay.
And I really think that's the crux of it. I think the newer Teslas, like we own, there's a chance. But I think the older folks on 2.5 or earlier who were promised FSD, they're kind of out of luck. I don't see it ever happening for them. And it's a hardware limitation that Tesla either didn't fully anticipate or did and kind of blew it off. I mean, who knows? I mean, computers are like dog ears. I mean, they probably had the best of intentions when they put it all together and sold it to the consumer, but software moves at the speed of light.
So you believe the intentions are good, that Tesla didn't sell it knowingly, going, we'll never get this. But
I think their intentions were fine. I think
that's good. Court case over. They're not going to lose the case.
Yeah,
then.
I mean, these people bought it in good faith. They paid their $8,000 for it or whatever they paid.
It's a lot of money.
But I kind of think Tesla owed it to them to either compensate them and say, sorry, our bad, we can't make it work. Here's a free supercharging, or here's a credit or whatever. But they just kind of took their money and said, nice to know you.
The easiest thing they could have done is just, brought it forward, as these people are often Tesla fans, especially early buyers.
And early adopters.
You're eligible for your next Tesla purchase for free supercharging, right? Like that's
whatever.
Or not supercharging, sorry, free FSD transfer.
Right.
That's what they should do.
Pick something.
They should just let them transfer it forward to a new vehicle, because their old vehicle can't even upgrade to do the stuff that the new. But
also, I bought this thing and I still haven't been given what I bought.
Right. And I supported you, Tesla.
Yeah, but that was R&D budget. You're not getting that back. That went to R&D.
I mean, especially the way they used to do it, because, when I bought it, paying for FSD got you nothing extra. Like, there were no extra features until they...
It was a promise. Yeah.
Yeah, until they reshuffled things. So they used to have enhanced autopilot, and they reshuffled some of the things that you got with enhanced autopilot, and they pushed that into... what they call FSD capability or whatever.
Yeah.
Oh, and they got rid of enhanced autopilot at one point. So some things you got, and then, so if you wanted summon, it came with FSD, which to me was just nuts, because FSD already was a misnomer. So yeah, I would have thought that would be the way to do it. I mean, if you can get away with it though, geez,
Now, do you guys agree with the lawsuit? Do you think it's a fair lawsuit of saying, hey, I paid for this thing, you never gave it to me, it's some level of fraud, whatever, ignoring the legal definitions of what that means? So false advertising, something, right?
In principle, I agree with it.
Okay.
You should have gotten something for your $8,000.
Sure.
Yeah, I would say in principle, yeah. I don't know if they're really, I'm sure they had their lawyers go over the fine print pretty well. But I mean, to me, one of the bigger things that helps the class action case is, that video that came out that, has been shown to be basically staged. And especially that little intro, that was a lie, right?
Yeah.
That
all
said,
of this footage was
this is all real, and we're showing you what it can do. And there was no intervention where it turned out, the route actually had been practiced several times, and there were sort of, spot vehicles driving
helpers
along with it.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I don't have any problem with making that type of video, showing, what we expect to happen. That's
the art of the possible.
Yeah, I mean, that's,
I want to punch every executive in the face that ever says it to me.
You have to present it that way.
Right, right. And it was presented as this is what's possible right now.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, I think that is a problem, and there should be some restitution because of that.
Yeah.
Well, we'll see.
But
so
even without intent for fraud, right? The truth is, people were promised something, and
Didn't get it.
it's going to be in the next year is what we heard all the time. In the next year, and of course, it's been
a long time,
practically a decade. And if you talk to any people that worked in the field at that time, they were all like, "Yeah, there's no way it's going to be 2 years from now, and most likely more than 10 years from now." Back then, and these are the people that should know something about it.
right.
Those are also the people that weren't really believers in
Wanted LiDAR.
Yeah, they wanted LiDAR, but it was reasonable for them to want LiDAR because that's what works, right? And Tesla literally has used LiDAR. How they use it to
map
train
the routes.
They use it to train their cameras because LiDAR is a piece of ground truth in terms of how far away are things in three-dimensional space. But of course, there are things you can do with cameras, motion parallax, or even just static parallax with multiple cameras that allow you to infer distance. And then if basically you can train an AI, like, okay, what do you see? And then here's the truth that you use to, train your AI using the LiDAR data.
So what you're telling me is there is actually hope, a real hope. I can have Jarvis on my Model 3 running FSD for me.
I mean, that's Jarvis includes, maybe you'll get Grok making snarky comments at you. Oh, is that where you really want to go? You don't really want to go there.
Are you sure you want that?
I did crack
Making
up
dad
though.
puns.
I saw on streaming there was the Tom Hanks movie Finch where he builds a robot. I haven't seen it yet, but I saw on the trailer there's a whole thing where he builds a robot and then he's teaching the robot to drive. So there's a robot driving his car, and I was like, oh, hey, that's how he's getting self-driving to work.
FSD,
we're gonna have Optimus as FSD. That'll be fun.
There used to be a DARPA. There's another sort of DARPA grand challenge. Not the autonomous driving one, but there was one for humanoid robots, and there'd be different tests. Like
I remember seeing
open
videos
a
for
door.
that. Yeah.
And one was actually, get in the car and drive it. And I don't know if they're still doing it, but I'm sure you can find on YouTube, there are tons of great sort of blooper reels of various bipedal robots
Not
failing at
quite as
tests.
successful as they had hoped. Well, that goes. Well,
we'll get there.
FSD is not quite as what we hoped either. I mean, between bashing your rims on the curbs and,
I don't know, Mike. I heard this Mike guy tell me that it was super impressive and everything worked perfectly. So
this little
I'm
Mike
looking
guy,
forward to hearing the update if it's
this
repeatable.
Mike guy was in a very limited space.
Alrighty.
Not a curb to be found.
That's our show. Hopefully that was enough content. We're a little over an hour. As always, we appreciate your comments and questions and all that stuff coming in. So keep that coming. Like and subscribe on X or
Twitter. It's Twitter.
Twitter. Sure, Twitter.
Actually, all the Twitter stuff has been expunged at this point, right? At least in terms of the
core,
the routing,
the naming,
stuff, right?
The naming, yeah. So so on X and on YouTube, feel free to go over to the Tesla Motors Club. TeslaMotorsClub.com website. Become a supporting member. That always helps out. Thank you to our producers, Danny, who's holding down the fort today. And we will see you next time. Go ahead. Say it, Doug.
Laters.
Can't go without it.
Get go.